Hi, I'm Chris Grisby from comicbooknerdshot.com and the Facebook group and the Google Plus group and many other things, but comicbooknerdshot.com. Bringing you the back of the bin reviews for Wednesday. It's still Wednesday technically. If I haven't gone to sleep, it's still Wednesday. We'll call this a Sean Cassidy. It's basically vodka and kamikaze mix, some fruit punch. It's red and kamikaze, so Sean Cassidy. Rest in peace, Banshee. This week we're going to try and keep it short, but you know how I am with those. I am shirtless because there's a shirtless movement in the CBNH Facebook group, trying to get the guys to show as much as possible from the Facebook limitations. And it hasn't been moving as far, so I figured I'd do a video shirtless and we'll see how it goes. Our lovely theme song on its way out. This week we've got a few books, some ones I like, some ones I don't. We'll get into that in a little bit. First up, Starman, number 18 from DC. It was good. I've heard a lot about Starman and some good reviews and whatnot, but I had never read any previously. And this whole theme of this week is sort of a rivals thing, and this is Starman versus the Mist, first joust. So Starman and the Mist are apparently rivals for a while, and this is their first encounter, and it's good. It's, you know, standard, some good art. But it was a very, very well told story. Well told. A lot of look into old DC in history. They seem to use a lot of real names, not the code names of the characters. So if you don't know some of the real names of your old DC heroes, you might be a little lost, and you have to wiki some of that stuff, but definitely stuff you need to get used to and up on anyway with the new DCU and just how they're working with stuff and seeing how things change out. So it was a very well told story. It actually, the last page actually leads into some stories that you presume have already happened or will happen. Last page for those who have read Starman number 18. Which talk about these guys that go into the Mist's old lair and end up far in the future getting killed because they went in there a long time ago. So it leads you into wanting to read the future stories and things that happen later, which is good. No complaints with this book, actually. It was really well told. Humor in some parts. You definitely get the rivalry between the two, Mist and Starman, and how, you know, that honor-bound thing that arch enemies seem to have, where they don't just kill each other, they, you know, actually try and defeat them for a purpose and a reason, and there's more to it than just, I'm robbing a bank and you're trying to stop me, blah, 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 blah. So it works out. Starman is a definite dig. Find more if you can. Here we go. Double Dragon number 5 from Marvel Comics. I point out to say from Marvel Comics because the most interesting thing from this point is I think that a lot of people know about Jimmy and Billy Lee of Double Dragon fame. Mostly from video games, I'm sure not everybody has read the comic book. But one of the things I found interesting was that their father, at least proclaimed in this book, old guy with the gray hair, is named Stan, and that would make him Stan Lee. And I don't know if it's written by Tom Brevoort and Mike Cantavorich, Jiminy Crickets with that last name, but I don't know if they particularly planned on that. I'm sure they did. You can't work at Marvel and not name a character Stan in general and not have it pointed out and not have it be on purpose, and then let alone name him Stan Lee and not have it be on purpose. But it's funny that the Double Dragon hero's father is Stan Lee. Spoiler. No, I mean, but whatever. The rest of the comic is a lot of exposition, a lot of backstory, since they're explaining how the fuck Stan Lee is their father. Not the actual Stan Lee, but a guy named Stan Lee. But they're trying to tell how Stan Lee is their father and the whole history of Double Dragon and the power, and which is weird because they keep talking about the Dragon Force, which you see when they do their Wonder Twin act. But the Dragon Force really just seems to be a cool outfit, is what they get. Iron Fist gets a, fist made of iron that glows and shit, and they get a spiky outfit, which is cool, I guess, but, I don't really see the Dragon Force in that. I don't know what they're doing. But nothing too bad with the issue itself, but nothing great. It was just a lot of backstory and a lot of talking. You get a sense of the characters a bit in this, which is good, but nothing to really say, buy me. So I'm going to say a sift on this one. Look for good issues. That, of course, would be an issue you may want to find, which is issue number 5, since it says that Stan Lee is their father. Next, we have Batman, Bane, and I am admittedly not a Batman fan, nor a Bane fan, nor a Nolan fan, nor not a fan of a lot of things Bat-related. But this was a good story. I'm assuming it's not a trade, I don't believe. It just is like a trade. Hopefully they didn't break this up into different issues, because that would suck, because it's basically a one and done story about Bane and his plans to destroy Gotham City, and how he is ultimately defeated by the Bat family. You got Robin and Nightwing in this. You got Batman and Robin there. Nightwing's in here somewhere. Nightwing getting his ass kicked. So, but it's a good story though. I like one and done. I like to get a whole story in my comic that I bought. Especially this was initially $5, so it definitely should have been a whole story, even with the thick pages and glossy and whatever. But it was definitely a look at it. If you're not familiar with Bane and you're going into the new, Dark Knight movie, and you're unfamiliar with Bane, this would probably be something to pick up because, well, one, there's that, and then two, it does give you a look into his character type and motivations and relationship with Talia and all that, since she's supposed to be in the new movie and whatnot. So I'd say dig for this. Maybe some other Bane stories, I'm not sure, but this is definitely a good read. Art, I don't know. It's Batman-y, so it's dark and muddled a bit, but there's just something that's off and on. I don't know. Off and on. Sometimes it's good. It works for me, and then sometimes it just didn't. But definitely, I think a dig. I'd say dig for this. Even if you're not a Batman fan, but you're going to see the Batman movie, which I'm not going to go see. But I do things for CB&H. I buy books that I don't normally want to buy or would read or whatever, because Oz commands it. But Bane, Batman Bane, buy it. Here we have Superman, Man of Steel. This is Steel versus the Last Son of Krypton, which is after the death of Superman, was all those other multiple Supermans that popped up. And this was the semi-fight between Steel and the guy that was called the Last Son of Krypton, which was the one with the fancy sunglasses. Which you see him get his ass kicked for having the fancy sunglasses. But it was nothing too great in this. The White Rabbit recently made her resurgence with the DCNU. And Lex Luthor Jr. with the mounds and mounds of ginger hair. I love a redhead. The beard's not working for me, but the blouse. What? I don't know. But all in all, the comic is I don't know. In general, I'm going to say sift for Superman, Man of Steel. I think you can pass on this particular issue. There's nothing spectacular about it. I mean, if you're a fan of the White Rabbit, maybe, because I'm sure she doesn't pop up a lot. But she is at least entertaining in this issue, and then of course her sidekick is ridiculous Howard. Even though, but all in all, a so-so issue, definitely passable. But the story at least looked like it might be good or interesting. So maybe in trade, dig for it. But issue by issue, if you only find one issue or so around here, you can probably pass on it. Next up, Generation X, the fantabulous, glossy, foil-covered 90s. Screw you guys. Love the 90s. Love Gen X. And I wasn't going to review this one since I had already read the book. And normally I don't read the things or review the things that I've already read before. I like to read and review the new stuff I haven't read and let you guys know what I was thinking about it. But there's been a lot of talk about Wolverine and the X-Men. Wait a second. Being the new Generation X, especially with Bachalo attached to it and whatnot. But I just have not enjoyed Wolverine and the X-Men. I hate to be negative, not really, but I hate to be negative about a book, but I don't really like Wolverine and the X-Men. And after rereading Generation X issue number 1, I really do not like Wolverine and the X-Men. The art in here is just so much clearer and crisper, and I just, if you go and you look at Wolverine and the X-Men, it's just not, I don't know what he's doing. I don't know. There's stuff that's clearly dated. Not to mention the Gargoyles. Shout out to the Gargoyles. This is one of the best cartoons out there. But clearly dated stuff. But it looks good, and the character work was great. And even though there's only so much in this was probably like a double-sized issue or whatever, but even though there's only so much action that happens in this book and whatever, the interactions are, I don't know. It just resonates better. I haven't read these characters since most of them have died or been left in obscurity or whatever. I haven't read a lot of these characters in a long time. And Sean Cassidy. and it's just so much better than Wolverine and the X-Men. I just don't understand how people can. I get the comparison, but it's just not as good. It's not. Wolverine and X-Men is just not. It's not. I don't. And maybe it's just there's not because there's not the attention to each particular character in Wolverine and the X-Men. You get a lot of different people and some great one-liners and some things like that or whatever, but you don't really get them together, or it's just not clicking for me with Wolverine and the X-Men, and it does with Generation X. So definitely dig for Generation X. The early stuff. I think they did lose me later. As much as I praised Generation X, they did lose me later, although that was in my non-comic book phase. I was just not around to shop. So I was only picking up issues every once in a while, but it did sort of lose its thing, but definitely early Generation X, dig for it. Do a double thing. She-Hulk, issue 48. With VZ. Now, one thing, because I'm not sure if I've ever read a She-Hulk comic book before, and especially this is issue 48 and 49. One of the things I found surprising was that they break the fourth wall, and it's almost like Deadpool but with boobs, and I found that weird. In these two particular issues, She-Hulk has switched bodies with this lady, who it's kind of hard to tell here, but She-Hulk is a little person, and then this lady has switched with her that was a little person and now has the She-Hulk body, just without the green skin. So they've switched bodies, and that's the whole story, and trying to get it back, and blah blah blah. But the thing about it, it's just funny how they do the call out. She does call outs about the Marvel Universe and mention panels and we'll explain that off panel and kind of stuff like that. And it's funny. It's a different kind of read because I don't read Deadpool because he's overexposed and he wasn't my favorite to begin with, and then he got Wolverine-ized, and I was like, fuck it. So, but it's definitely something funny to read. Definitely something different. It's not great. It's not great, and especially in this particular issue, they advertise, in this issue, your favorite villain, we guarantee it. And they guarantee it because they don't actually ever show the villain. What they cleverly do is let you fill it in Mad Lib style and say, oh, look it's insert favorite villain's name here. And they just never show the villain. They show all the action. So you still get your action. And shout out to Wyatt Wingfoot, minority sub-hero. But anyway, again, things that they can get away with, and that she even explains later on, like, oh, this is what we're doing is we couldn't agree on which villain. I believe it's in this panel. We couldn't agree on which villain to have in this issue, so we just decided to let you decide and fill in your own villain. Like, that's what they decided to do. It was just... And they could get away with that. And it's funny. It's funny, but... I'm going to say She-Hulk is a sift. The breaking the fourth wall, all, Saved by the Bell, pause style, is okay. But there's nothing too spectacular or sensational about said She-Hulk issues that would make me say that these are all absolute must-buys. They are, as you come by, if you find the issue, it might be something different, something kind of funny to read. Here we have a romance book, comic book, My Terrible Romance. I am not a big fan of the romance books and blah blah blah, but the cover was really well done. And it's outside of my norm, so I figured why not. Of course, to my dismay, from the lovely color, it is a black and white book, and I am not a fan of black and white. But, even though there's not a lot of action, it somehow works for me. I guess since it's a little less dynamic and it's more about the standard stoic poses and whatnot. And all these words in comic books. Oh, I miss it. There's not as many words in comics anymore. You don't get that a lot. So it works for me in not having to hear the whole splash page, or look at me draw Batman really well, and blah blah blah, but you get less story. Give me more story. So, but this is a set of like 3, I think, stories, short stories that are just random romance stories, it's sort of like Tales from the Crypt with a romance feel to it. Like it's a romance story, but like little twists at the end. But they're all, of course, sappy and melodramatic. Check the pose out. Very melodramatic, but not entirely horribly written. I mean, they're all written, I think, but just, of course, over the top. Sally, old Jim, old Sally, old Jim kind of stuff. But what is interesting is that they have the intro here that they wrote about why they're doing romance comics, and then here there's some history into romance comics, and if you're a comics buff or a history buff or just sort of interested in any kind of comic history, this would be a good thing to pick up from New England Comics Press, because they have little vignettes, I believe is the word. I don't even know. To little things about romance comics and the comics quotatory, evil, and all the different books that were available at the time and things they used to do. So not horrible, not terrible, but of course I am not into the romantic things. This is, of course, hilarious. If you're a fan of Mad Men, you would at least take some interest in this. I'm sure this relates to one of the things they did. I believe there's an episode they did sort of like that. So definitely, I think these sort of things are a sift, or at least buy one. You don't need to buy a lot of them. I don't think they're mostly the same. I would believe most chick flicks are, and most chick books are. So that's all we have for Back of the Bin review. Shirtless. Sean Cassidy. I will see you guys next week. Sis. sift. Dig for your life for Generation X. Sift for Superman. Not a big fan. You might want to dig for this. If you're at least even remotely involved in going to go see the new Batman movie, dig for this. Dig for this issue, sift for the rest. I'm going to say dig for Starman. He seems good. The issue did not disappoint. Dig. And the cover is ridiculous. I love the art on the cover. Starman is probably worth it just for the cover art. See you next week.